I'm Al Weber. I live in Carmel, California, but my heart's in Victor, Colorado. Still. I've been going through a lot of junk by request of the family to make room for other things, and I thought I would bring some of that junk today to show you. So I'm going to start with photographs that go back 55 years to show you where I was 55 years ago. And at that time, I was what you might call a small town commercial photographer in Carmel and Monterey. And every day when I came home from shooting, whatever film was left in the camera got used between the car and the bar on the kids. And there are 3 Weber boys, and you're going to see a few pictures of the Weber boys as I recorded them somewhere very casually. I have an attitude. This is my first son, Christopher. I have an attitude about children, and that is that they are not human beings. They come from some faraway planet that we don't know anything about, and eventually, like caterpillars and worms, they morph from one position to another. And I think this is one of the prints I've got that proves that they really aren't human beings. The other thing, if you'll turn the print around so you see the back of it, you'll see that it's been mounted at one time 55 years ago with rubber cement. So much for all this archival crap about permanent prints, you know. This print will never go away. It will always be through. Down with that one.
Looks like a chemogram from Nolan Priest.
Yes. One up on Nolan there. And this is Chris again, as he is beginning to come out of his cocoon, you might say. Okay, that's enough. I don't like to look at pictures too long. You know, you take a picture, and what do? You take a 30th of a second, and then you take 30 hours to look at it. 30th of a second is enough. And he's coming along pretty good here. I went through a stage where I thought photographs were rather fragile, and so I used to mount everything on masonite. Pretty good for a windstorm. And you'll notice that he's beginning to come out of the worm stage at this point and take on some characteristics of us. This is still Chris. We're almost through with Chris. And Chris, incidentally, right now is 55 years old and is an avionics mechanic for United Airlines. He works on the Dreamliner. And what's that one? That's Chris when he's finally jumped the water and he's no longer a worm. He was a lovely child, and he's a great young man, but he's always had this very pleasant look. The next son was Ben, and he was 180 degrees out from Chris in every respect, very much of a loner. We lived at that time on a 3/4 acre wooded canyon, and he spent the whole day in the bottom of that canyon every day with his dog. And this is Ben coming out of the canyon when he's about 2 years old. And the next one is Ben when he decided to cut his own hair. So we all have ways that we do things, and at that time I liked big prints, and 16 by 20 was pretty standard for me. And this is the last one of Ben, I think. He's now a horticulturalist, and his main line of work is he restores old phonographs. And the next picture is one that we had a lot of fun with. It's Ben and Chris together. before Robert, who's the third son.
Is that paper a film sheet?
I'm sorry?
Is that paper they're holding a film sheet? The paper that he's holding, is that?
Film instruction sheet.
Yeah, it's a triax information sheet, naturally. David Vestal one time put a tribute in his newsletter to Kodak for making triax film, and I'm part of that thing. This is Robert, and it goes back to that worm and cocoon thing, doesn't it? Robert was born at the community hospital in Carmel, Monterey, and at this point he's about 2 hours old. And here he is about 6 months later. I don't know how many hundred photographs I have of the children. I took one set of Robert and made a portfolio about 20 years ago when he was, well, not 20 years ago, his 21st birthday. I could do the same for all three boys, but I don't think I have the time to do that. And this will be the last one. And thank you very much. That's it. See you around. I have one more comment I'd like to make, of course.
Yeah, you're not so bad.
Listen, folks. El has an announcement.
I'm looking around for the voice. Well, it's always this one, isn't it? It goes on to this morphing thing, you know. I watch the boys go through these stages, and I found that in looking at other people sometimes, that some of them never get out of the worm stage, that they stay out there all the time, and they never become really what we call among us as human beings. And to prove my point, I can find a couple of instances in this very room, and one of them would be, of course, Paul Christine. And then next to Paul is Kathy Sim, see? So that's proof of the pudding that some people never morph through all the way. But they do make interesting photographs. And Skip, we all know that you're going to go to heaven.